Hey everybody, I'm really sick this week, so we're gonna try to rush through this. Yahoo Fantasy Football, the Tucson Tackle Dummies League. Week 5 is in the books. Let's go through each and every matchup. Mojo Jojo knocked off Angry Arthritis, 127.94 to 122.2. This week's tightest battle went down to the wire, but in the end, Arthritis remains winless, while Mojo remains the league's #2 overall team. Arthritis made things interesting, picking up a game-high 27.1 from running back Fred Jackson and 25.5 from quarterback Eli Manning. But overall, Arthritis had just 5 players beat projections. Disappointing performances from running back Stephen Ridley with just 2.72, Dexter McCluster with just 2.05, and Denarius Moore with just 0.68 spelled doom for Angry Arthritis offensively. Meanwhile, Mojo posted a team-high 25.04 from quarterback Aaron Rodgers, plus 22.4 from wide receiver Victor Cruz, and 16.35 from tight end Vernon Davis. These scores helped Mojo capture the win despite also having just 5 players beat projections this week. On defense, Mojo had 3 top projections, while Arthritis had an impressive 11.5 from defensive back, but 0 points from the Tennessee defense and defensive lineman Michael Johnson. In other action, Lombardi's Ghost knocked off Viva Football 133.67 to 122.11. The league's other winless team also put up quite a fight this week, but ultimately fell short to the Wildcat division leader Lombardi in a close battle. Viva had 5 in double digits this week, led by a game-high 19.65 from running back Arian Foster. Viva's 3 running backs combined for 54.45 this week, and Viva's 3 Houston Texans, Foster, Owen Daniels, and Neil Rackers, combined for 41.3 on offense this week. The downfall for Viva was a poor performance from quarterback Josh Freeman with just 6.53, and lineup issues once again, as Viva had a defensive back left in on a bye and an empty linebacker slot once again. Lombardi had a team high from surprising Steve Breston with 18 points, while Patriots duo Tom Brady and Wes Welker combined for 32.07 this week. Defense was by no means an impressive battle, but Lombardi got the easy win as Viva's shoddy defense managed just 15.5 points total, while Lombardi got more than that from just his defensive backs, with Brent Grimes and Cortland Finnegan combining for 16.5 points. In other action, Greek Thunderball knocked off Inglorious Bear Jew 135.82 to 122.98. An understaffed Greek squad knocked off the underperforming Bear Jew this week in what is certainly the season's first big upset. Greek pulled off the victory despite 13.5 points total on defense, with a defensive back on a bye, an empty linebacker slot, and a defensive lineman projected and then scoring 0. And add to that a running back on the offensive side, also on a bye in the lineup. Greek beat his miserable projections by over 36 points this week, thanks to the 3 highest scores of the matchup, led by quarterback Ben Roethlisberger's 29.32. Wide receiver Calvin Johnson added 20.25, and wide receiver Pierre Garçon added 25.75 to overcome the lineup woes and propel Greek to an improbable victory. Bear Jew had 7 players beat projections to counter that, but just 4 of those players in double digits to Greek's 6. Bear Jew, as his leading scorer, was LaShawn McCoy at running back with 17.7, and Jimmy Graham continued to contribute at tight end with 14.9. But Matt Ryan at quarterback had a disappointing 10.48, while his Atlanta teammate kicker Matt Bryant chipped in just 2 points this week. And Yahoo experts' favorite running back Isaac Redman was a no-show as he was pushed aside in the Pittsburgh Steelers offense and scored just 6.85 points in place of the injured Rashard Mendenhall. Also in action, Championship Cheese knocked off AZ Chargers 110.43 to 97.34. Cheese eked out a victory over AZC with the week's lowest scoring combined matchup. The highest scoring player in this contest was AZ Chargers kicker Nick Novak, who had 19 points this week. AZ Chargers dominated at quarterback of Phillip Rivers for 18.9 versus Cheese's weak Kevin Cobb, who had just 7.33 this week. The success for AZ Chargers with Rivers didn't help his handcuff wide receiver Vincent Jackson, who had a low 4.15 this week. Both teams had low scores on offense, though, as Cheese got just 1.25 from Marion Barber and 0.1 from wide receiver Eric Decker. AZ Chargers had just 4.1 from Patriots tight end Rob Gronkowski and 0 from Patriots running back Danny Woodhead. The matchup was won on defense, though, as Cheese outscored the undermanned AZC 50-14. AZ Chargers left a defensive back and a linebacker in on a bye, while Cheese got double digits from defensive back Jason McCourty and linebacker Patrick Willis, plus 8.5 from waiver wire pickup linebacker Donald Butler. In other action, Raging Boners knocked off White Powerade 142.92 to 117.15. An interesting mix of high highs and low lows pushes Boners to victory against Powerade this week. In each team, in fact, dealt with breakout performances coupled with terrible performances. Powerade actually had the matchup's two highest scores, with 27.15 from running back Jarvis Green Ellis and 26.9 from quarterback Michael Vick. But Powerade struggled with his two other running backs, Michael Bush and LaDainian Tomlinson, who combined for just 2.65 this week, and wide receiver Brandon Lloyd added just 2.25. Boners had a team-high 25.46 from quarterback Cam Newton, plus a combined 24.4 from running backs Ahmad Bradshaw and Mark Ingram. Those scores were needed to overcome Boners' three Houston Texans, Jacoby Jones, James Casey, and Ben Tate, who combined for just 6.81 points between the three of them. Boners then dominated the defensive battle, even though he left a linebacker slot empty this week after he got 24 points from the San Francisco defense and 17.5 from linebacker Nick Barnett. Powerade had just 2 on-defense beat projections and a -3 from the Tampa Bay defense. In other action, What the Shell knocked off the Amazons 148.81 to 117.78. Amazons was no match this week for the highest scoring team of the week, as Shell hangs on to the league's #1 ranking with another impressive performance. Shell had 7 in double digits and 7 beat projections, led by a game-high 26.55 from wide receiver Dwayne Bowe. Quarterback Drew Brees added 22.96, while Shell's 4 combined running backs added 46.25 this week. Amazons fought back with a combined 41.01 from Detroit's Matthew Stafford and Javid Best. And Sebastian Janikowski at kicker booted a whopping 20 this week, topping an impressive 13 from Shell's kicker John Casey. Amazons wasn't able to keep pace, though, because of lackluster performance, with just 7.3 points from running back Darren McFadden and a weak 0.95 from tight end Destin Keller. Neither team had a big defensive performance, but Shell did manage 10.5 points from linebacker Sean Witherspoon. Also in action, Mustache Discount knocked off Big Ben's Revenge 134.05 to 101.73. The anticipated rematch of last year's championship game did not live up to the hype, as Mustache rolled over the defending champion Big Ben by more than 30 points this week. Mustache's modest success across the board, experienced modest success across the board, with a game-high 19.8 from running back Frank Gore. Running back Chris Johnson woke up as well with 13.25 this week, and fill-in quarterback Blaine Gabbert beat projections for 11.69 this week. Big Ben had a team-high 19.73 from quarterback Curtis Painter, plus double digits from wide receiver Mike Wallace, running back Michael Turner, and kicker Ryan Longwell. Both teams struggled at tight end, however, as Big Ben's 0.95 from Dallas Clark was still enough to beat Mustache's 0 from Todd Heap. Defense was a decisive victory for Mustache, though, with 15 points from the Cincinnati defense and 16.5 points from defensive back George Wilson. Big Ben countered with 10 from linebacker David Harris, but 2 defensive starters scored 0, and no other defensive starter scored more than 3.5 points for Big Ben this week. And finally, Wildcats knocked off Navajos in the week's biggest blowout, 142.99 to 95.92. The week's biggest blowout was coupled with the lowest score of the week from Navajos, as Wildcats comfortably coasted to victory this week. A game-high 30.2 from running back Adrian Peterson, plus 23.84 from quarterback Matt Schaub, overwhelmed Navajos, who had just 3 players reach double digits this week. Navajos had 19.15 from wide receiver Hines Ward and 31.76 combined from Chicago Bears Jay Cutler and Matt Forte, but wide receiver Derek Mason had 0.95, tight end Scott Chandler had 0.65, and wide receiver Devery Henderson had 1.35 for Navajos. Over on defense, both teams left players in on a bye and had underwhelming performances. But with the win, Wildcats now has the league's longest winning streak with 4 consecutive victories. Looking ahead to next week, week 6 in the league, you're going to have 3-2 Mustache take on 3-2 Bear Jew in a rematch of one of last year's semifinal contest from the playoffs. And then you'll have Aztec division leader Mojo taking on 3-2 Boners in what should be a good matchup. 3-2 Cheese will take on winless Viva Football. Wildcat division leader Lombardi will take on 2-3 Greek, who is once again upset-minded. Cavs division leader Shao will take on 2-3 Navajos. 4-1 Wildcats will take the league's longest winning streak up against 1-4 Powerade. The Toro division leader AZ Chargers will meet 2-3 Big Ben, and 2-3 Amazons will try to hold off Angry Arthritis, who is still looking for his first victory. So we'll hope to see you back next week. Week 6 action will be recapped right here on Vanilla Thunder Productions YouTube channel.